The tall glass windows of the Sterling Tower reflected the bright lights of New York City. On the top floor, Marcus Sterling walked around his huge apartment, checking every detail. Tonight was important. The charity party would bring together the richest people in the city. Everyone who mattered would be there. Marcus looked at himself in the mirror one last time. His black suit was perfect. His dark hair was combed back just right. At 35, he owned one of the biggest companies in America. People called him the golden boy of business. Money, power, looks, he had everything, and he knew it. The first guests started to arrive at 7 o'clock. Marcus smiled and shook hands with everyone. He knew how to talk to these people. They were all like him, rich, important, and used to getting what they wanted. The women wore expensive dresses that cost more than most people made in a year. The men talked about their latest business deals and golf games. Marcus, darling. Rebecca Hartwell walked up to him with a big smile. Her red dress sparkled under the lights. She was the daughter of a famous lawyer and thought she was very special. This party is wonderful. You always know how to throw the best events. Thank you, Rebecca, Marcus said. He didn't really like her, but she was from the right family. In his world, that mattered a lot. The party got busier as more people arrived. Waiters in white uniforms carried trays of expensive food and wine. Everyone laughed and talked loudly. They all wanted to be seen with Marcus Sterling. In the corner of the main room sat a beautiful black piano. It was worth more than a house, but Marcus never played it. He had bought it because rich people were supposed to have pianos in their homes. It looked good and impressed visitors. As the night went on, people drank more wine and got louder. Rebecca had been drinking quite a bit. She kept touching Marcus's arm and laughing at everything he said, even when it wasn't funny. You know what, Marcus? Rebecca said, her words a little unclear. I bet none of these people have any real talents. They just have money. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean, look around. Rebecca waved her hand at the crowd. Can any of them actually do anything? Like really do something special? And you can? Marcus asked with a small smile. Rebecca stood up straighter. As a matter of fact, yes. I can play piano. I've been taking lessons since I was 5. A few people nearby heard this and started listening. Marcus saw his chance to have some fun. He was bored with the party anyway. Really? Marcus said loudly enough for more people to hear. You can play piano? Of course I can, Rebecca said proudly. More people gathered around them. Marcus loved being the center of attention. He walked over to the piano and put his hand on it. Well then, Rebecca, why don't you show us? Marcus said with a big grin. Rebecca looked a little nervous now. Oh, I don't know. Maybe later. But Marcus was just getting started. He looked around at all the faces watching them. These people loved drama and gossip. He would give them something to talk about. Come on, everyone, Marcus called out. Rebecca says she can play piano. Let's hear it. People started clapping and calling for Rebecca to play. She couldn't say no now without looking bad. She walked slowly to the piano, her face red. Marcus wasn't done yet. He felt like being extra mean tonight. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe he just enjoyed showing off his power. You know what? Marcus announced to the whole room. I have an idea. Let's make this interesting. Everyone got quiet, waiting to hear what he would say next. Marcus stood on a chair so everyone could see him. If anyone here, and I mean anyone, can really play piano, I mean really play like a true artist, I will marry them right here, right now. The room exploded with laughter. People thought this was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Marcus Sterling, the man who said he would never get married, making such a crazy promise. Marcus, you're terrible, someone shouted. I hope you're ready to walk down the aisle. Another person laughed. Marcus smiled wide. He knew none of these rich people could actually play piano well. They might have taken some lessons as children, but that was different from being really good. This was just a fun game to him. Rebecca sat down at the piano bench. Her hands were shaking a little. She started to play a simple song that everyone knew. It was okay, but nothing special. She made a few mistakes, but people clapped anyway to be polite. Beautiful, Rebecca, Marcus said, but everyone could tell he was joking. But I think my money is safe. While everyone was laughing and talking, no one noticed the woman in the corner. Elena Rodriguez was finishing her work for the night. She wore a simple gray uniform and carried a cart full of cleaning supplies. She had been working in this building for 3 years, but the rich people never really saw her. To them, she was just part of the background, like the furniture. Elena was 28 years old, but she looked tired. Working 3 jobs and taking care of her sick mother had aged her. Her long black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her hands were rough from all the cleaning work she did, but Elena heard every word Marcus said. She had been cleaning near the piano when he made his crazy promise. She stopped working and listened as Rebecca played the simple song. Elena's heart started beating faster. She looked at the beautiful piano that she walked past every night while working. She knew that piano better than Marcus ever would. Sometimes when the building was empty and she was alone, she would touch the keys very quietly. She never actually played it. She was too scared of getting in trouble. You see, Elena had a secret that none of these rich people knew. A long time ago, she had been one of the most promising young piano players in the country. She had won competitions and played in famous concert halls. The best music school in America had wanted her to come study there, but life had changed everything. When her father died suddenly, Elena had to give up her dreams. Her mother got very sick and needed expensive medicine. The family lost all their money paying for doctors and hospitals. Elena had to quit music school and find work to pay the bills. Now, 3 years later, she cleaned the offices where her dreams had once lived. Every night she walked past that piano, remembering what she used to be able to do. As Marcus continued to joke and laugh with his friends, Elena made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She put down her cleaning cart and started walking toward the piano. Nobody noticed her at first. She was just the cleaning lady. But something about the way she walked made a few people look. Elena's back was straight and her steps were sure. She didn't look scared anymore. She was ready to show Marcus Sterling what real piano playing sounded like. Elena walked slowly toward the piano. Her heart was beating so fast she thought everyone might hear it. The rich people were still laughing and talking about Marcus's silly promise. Rebecca had finished playing and was getting compliments that she didn't really deserve. "That was lovely, Rebecca," an older woman said. "You play so well." Rebecca smiled, but Elena could see she was embarrassed. The song had been simple and everyone knew it. But these people were used to being polite to each other, even when they were lying. Marcus was enjoying himself. He loved being the center of attention. "See, I told you my money was safe. No one here can really play piano like a true artist." As Elena got closer to the piano, a few people started to notice her. They looked confused. What was the cleaning lady doing? Why wasn't she leaving like she was supposed to? Elena stopped next to the piano bench. Rebecca was still sitting there, happy to be getting attention from the important people. "Excuse me," Elena said quietly. Rebecca looked up, surprised. She had never heard the cleaning lady speak before. "What do you want?" "I would like to try," Elena said. The people nearby started to laugh. They thought this was very funny. The cleaning lady wanted to play piano at Marcus Sterling's fancy party. "Oh, this is rich," someone said. "Even the help thinks she can play." Marcus heard the noise and turned around. When he saw Elena standing by his piano, his face got hard. He didn't like when people didn't know their place. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked Elena. His voice was cold. "Shouldn't you be finished with your work by now?" Elena looked right at him. She had cleaned his office many times, but they had never really looked at each other before. "You said if anyone could really play piano, you would marry them." "I can play piano." The whole room got very quiet. Then everyone started laughing even louder than before. They thought this was the funniest thing that had ever happened at a party. "This is perfect," someone shouted. "The billionaire and the cleaning lady." "Marcus, you better be careful what you promise," another person called out. But Marcus wasn't laughing. He was angry. How dare this woman embarrass him in front of all his important friends? She was supposed to be invisible. She was supposed to clean and leave and never talk to people like him. "Look," Marcus said, his voice getting harder. "I don't know what game you think you're playing, but this is a private party. You need to finish your work and go home." Elena didn't move. "You made a promise in front of all these people. You said anyone who could really play piano. You didn't say it had to be someone rich." Some people in the crowd started to whisper. Elena was right. Marcus had said anyone. He hadn't said anything about money or class or what job they had. Marcus felt trapped. He looked around at all the faces watching him. Some people looked amused. Others looked interested to see what he would do. He was Marcus Sterling. He always won. He always got what he wanted. He couldn't let a cleaning lady make him look stupid. "Fine," Marcus said with a mean smile. "If you want to embarrass yourself in front of everyone, go ahead. But when you can barely play Happy Birthday, don't expect anyone to feel sorry for you." Rebecca got up from the piano bench quickly. She didn't want to be part of this anymore. Elena sat down slowly. She put her rough, work-worn hands on the smooth white keys. For a moment, Elena just sat there. She looked at the keys and remembered the last time she had played a real piano. It had been 3 years ago at her music school. She had been practicing for a big competition that she never got to enter. The room was very quiet now. Everyone was watching Elena, waiting for her to make a fool of herself. Marcus stood with his arms crossed, sure that this would be over in a few minutes. Elena closed her eyes and thought about her father. He had been the one to first put her hands on piano keys when she was 4 years old. He had worked extra jobs to pay for her lessons. He had driven her to competitions and sat in the front row, beaming with pride when she won. "This is for you, Papa," Elena whispered, so quietly that only she could hear it. Then Elena began to play. The first notes filled the room like magic. Elena was playing one of the hardest pieces ever written, a concerto that even professional piano players were scared to try. Her fingers moved across the keys like they were dancing. The laughter stopped immediately. People's mouths fell open. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Elena's whole body moved with the music. Her eyes were closed and she had a peaceful look on her face. This wasn't work for her. This was like breathing. The music poured out of her like water from a fountain. The sad parts of the song made people want to cry. The fast parts made their hearts race. The beautiful parts made them forget where they were. Elena played like the piano was part of her own body. Marcus felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. He stared at Elena, unable to understand what was happening. This was impossible. The cleaning lady couldn't play like this. Nobody could play like this except for the greatest musicians in the world. But there she was, playing music that sounded like it came from heaven. Elena's fingers flew over the keys, never missing a note. She played soft parts that sounded like whispers and loud parts that filled the huge room with power. The music told a story of love, loss, hope, and dreams that never died. Some people in the crowd started to cry without even knowing why. Others just stood there with their mouths open, too shocked to move. They had never heard anything so beautiful in their lives. Rebecca felt ashamed. Her simple song now seemed like a child's toy compared to this. She had thought she was good at piano, but Elena was showing her what it really meant to be an artist. As Elena played, she forgot about everything else. She forgot about the rich people watching her. She forgot about Marcus and his mean words. She forgot about her tired body and her worries about money. All that existed was the music. For the first time in 3 years, Elena felt like herself again. Not the cleaning lady. Not the tired woman who worked 3 jobs. She was Elena Rodriguez, the girl who had been born to make music. The hardest part of the song was coming up. Elena's hands moved faster and faster. The music got more complex, with notes flying everywhere like birds in the sky. But Elena never stumbled. She played every note perfectly, as if she had been practicing this song every day of her life. Marcus watched Elena's face as she played. He saw something there that he had never seen in his world of rich, bored people. He saw pure joy. Elena wasn't playing to show off or to get attention. She was playing because the music lived inside her and had to come out. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something real. The music was touching a part of his heart that he had forgotten existed. He realized that all his money and power meant nothing compared to what Elena could do with just her hands and an instrument. As the song reached its highest point, Elena's hands seemed to fly above the keys. The music was so powerful that people could feel it in their bones. Some of the women were openly crying now. Even some of the men had tears in their eyes. Then slowly the music began to get softer. Elena played the ending like she was saying goodbye to an old friend. The last notes hung in the air like perfect jewels, clear and beautiful and sad. When Elena finally stopped playing, the room was completely silent. She opened her eyes and looked around. Everyone was staring at her like they had never seen her before. Because they hadn't. They had been looking at a cleaning lady, but they had been hearing an angel. Elena stood up from the piano bench. Her legs felt weak, but her heart felt strong. She had done it. She had played again. And it had been perfect. Marcus stared at Elena like he was seeing her for the first time. Because he was. The words he had spoken as a joke now hung in the air like a promise he couldn't take back. If anyone can really play piano, I will marry them. And Elena Rodriguez, the cleaning lady with the hands of an artist, had just played piano like no one in that room had ever heard before. The silence stretched on. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. The silence in the room felt heavy like the air before a storm. Elena stood beside the piano, her hands still trembling from the music she had just played. She looked at Marcus, waiting to see what he would do. Marcus felt like the world had stopped spinning. His mouth was dry and his heart was beating fast. He had never heard piano music like that in his life. It was impossible. How could the cleaning lady play better than famous musicians he had paid thousands of dollars to hear? Then, like a dam breaking, the room exploded with sound. People started clapping so hard their hands hurt. They cheered and shouted. Some were still crying from the beautiful music. That was incredible. Someone yelled, "Amazing!" called another person. "I've never heard anything like it." But through all the noise, Elena only looked at Marcus. She didn't say anything. She didn't smile or look proud. She just waited. Marcus knew he was in trouble. Big trouble. All these people had heard him make his promise. They had seen Elena play like an angel. Now they were all looking at him, waiting to see if he would keep his word. "Well, Marcus," said an older man named Robert Westbrook. He was the head of a big bank and one of Marcus's business partners. "Looks like you might be getting married tonight after all." People laughed, but it wasn't the same kind of laughter as before. Now there was something else in it. They were waiting to see if Marcus Sterling, the man who always got his way, would keep a promise that he had made as a joke. Marcus tried to smile. "Come on, everyone. We all know I was just having fun. Nobody takes promises like that seriously." But Elena spoke up, her voice quiet but clear. "You said it in front of everyone. You promised that if anyone could really play piano, you would marry them." "I played piano." "Everyone heard it." "Now wait just a minute," Marcus said, his voice getting louder. He was starting to panic. That was just a joke, a game. "Nobody actually meant it." "It didn't sound like a joke when you said it," Rebecca spoke up. She was still embarrassed about her own simple playing, but she was also angry at Marcus for being so mean to Elena. "You made it sound very serious." More people started to agree. "You did say it very clearly, Marcus. We all heard you. A promise is a promise." Marcus looked around the room and realized that many of these people didn't really like him. They came to his parties and acted friendly, but they were jealous of his money and success. They would love to see him trapped by his own words. Then Marcus saw something that made his stomach drop. In the corner, a woman was holding up her phone. She had been recording the whole thing. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Sarah Chen was a reporter for a big newspaper. She covered parties like this for the social pages. "This is the best story I've ever seen, Marcus. The billionaire who promised to marry anyone who could play piano, and the cleaning lady who played like a concertmaster. This will be front page news tomorrow." Marcus felt sick. If this story got out, he would be the joke of the whole city. People would laugh at him everywhere he went. His business partners might lose respect for him. His company's stock might go down. But there was another problem. Marcus's lawyer, David Kim, was at the party. David was smart and knew all about contracts and promises. Marcus saw him talking to other people and he didn't look happy. Marcus walked over to David and pulled him aside. "David, tell me this isn't legally binding. Tell me I can walk away from this." David looked serious. "Marcus, you made a public declaration in front of 50 witnesses. Several people recorded it. The woman met your exact conditions. In some states, this could be considered a verbal contract. But that's crazy," Marcus said. "I was joking." "The law doesn't care if you were joking," David replied. "You made a specific promise with specific conditions. She fulfilled those conditions in front of witnesses. If she wanted to take you to court, she might have a case." Marcus felt like he was drowning. He looked back at Elena, who was still standing by the piano. People were surrounding her now, asking her questions about where she learned to play and why she was working as a cleaning lady. "I studied music in school," Elena was saying, "but I had to stop when my father died. My family needed money, so I took whatever jobs I could find." "But why didn't you keep playing?" asked a woman in a blue dress. "You're so talented." Elena's face got sad. "Talent doesn't pay for medicine or rent. My mother is very sick and the treatments cost a lot of money. I work 3 jobs just to keep up with the bills." Marcus heard this and felt something strange in his chest. He had never thought about why someone like Elena would be cleaning offices. He had just assumed that some people were meant to be servants and others were meant to be served. But listening to Elena talk, he realized she had given up everything to take care of her family. She had sacrificed her dreams and her talent to do what was right. Sarah, the reporter, was still filming everything. "This is perfect," she said to her cameraman. "The rich man who doesn't keep his promises and the poor woman who gave up her dreams for love." Marcus knew he had to make a choice. He could try to get out of his promise and look like a coward who didn't keep his word. The story would make him look terrible. His reputation would be ruined. Or he could keep his promise and marry a woman he didn't know. A cleaning lady who had somehow learned to play piano better than anyone he had ever heard. Marcus walked back toward Elena. The crowd got quiet again. Sensing that something important was about to happen, Elena looked at him with calm, dark eyes. She didn't look excited or scared. She just looked patient, like she was used to waiting for other people to make decisions that would change her life. "You really can play," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Elena replied simply. "Where did you learn?" "Juilliard School of Music," Elena said. "I was there for 2 years before I had to leave," the crowd whispered. Juilliard was the most famous music school in America. Only the very best students got to go there. Marcus realized that Elena wasn't just good at piano. She was probably one of the best piano players in the country. She had just been hiding her talent while she cleaned his office every night. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" Marcus asked. "Why didn't you tell anyone you could play like that?" Elena shrugged. Who would have cared? Rich people don't usually want to hear about their cleaning lady's dreams. Marcus felt ashamed. She was right. He had seen Elena hundreds of times over the past 3 years, but he had never once thought of her as a real person with her own story and dreams. Robert Westbrook stepped forward. "Marcus, everyone is waiting. Are you going to keep your word or not?" Marcus looked around the room. All these faces watching him, all these people who would remember this night forever. Sarah still filming everything for the whole world to see. He thought about his reputation, his business, his carefully controlled life. Then he looked at Elena again. She had played music that touched his soul. She had given up everything for her family. She had more courage in her little finger than he had in his whole body. Marcus made his choice. "Yes," he said, his voice clear and strong. "I keep my promises. Elena Rodriguez, will you marry me?" The room erupted in cheers and applause. People couldn't believe it was really happening. The billionaire was going to marry the cleaning lady just like in a fairy tale, but Elena didn't look happy. She looked serious, like she was thinking about something important. "I need to know something first," Elena said, her voice cutting through the noise. "Are you asking me because you want to, or because you feel like you have to?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The honest answer was that he felt trapped. But looking at Elena, seeing her dignity and her talent, he realized something surprising. He was curious about her. Really curious. More curious than he had been about anyone in years. "Both," Marcus said honestly. "But I'd like to find out what happens if we try." Elena studied his face. She could tell he was being truthful. And she had her own reasons for considering his offer. "If I say yes," Elena said, "I want to make some things clear. This won't be a real marriage right away. We need to get to know each other first. And I want my mother to have the best medical care available." "Done," Marcus said without hesitation. "And I want to help other people like me, people who have talent but can't afford to develop it." "We can work that out," Marcus agreed. Elena looked around the room one more time, all these rich people watching her, waiting to see what the poor cleaning lady would do. She thought about her mother who needed expensive medicine. She thought about other young musicians who might be giving up their dreams because they couldn't afford to keep studying. "Yes," Elena said quietly. "I'll marry you." The room went wild. People clapped and cheered and took pictures. Sarah, the reporter, looked like she had just won the lottery. This was the story of the century. But in the middle of all the noise and excitement, Marcus and Elena just looked at each other, both wondering what they had just gotten themselves into. 3 days after the party, Marcus sat in his office on the 42nd floor of Sterling Tower. The view of New York City spread out below him, but he wasn't looking at it. He was reading newspaper articles about himself. "Billionaire falls for Cinderella" was the headline in the New York Post. The Daily News said, "From mop to $1 million man." Every newspaper, magazine, and website was talking about the story. The video of Elena playing piano had been watched by millions of people online. Marcus's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Business partners wanted explanations. His mother had called from Florida, demanding to know what was going on. David Kim, his lawyer, walked into the office with a thick folder of papers. "The marriage license is ready," David said. "But Marcus, are you sure about this? We could still find a way out. Maybe pay the woman some money to disappear." Marcus looked up from the newspapers. "Her name is Elena, and no, I'm not backing out. I gave my word." "This could affect your business," David warned. "Some of your partners are not happy about all this attention." "Let them be unhappy," Marcus said. But inside he was worried too. He had worked his whole life to build his company. What if this mistake ruined everything? There was a knock on the door. Marcus's secretary came in. "Mr. Sterling, Elena Rodriguez is here to see you." Marcus's heart started beating faster. He had barely slept for 3 nights, thinking about the woman who had played piano like an angel and agreed to marry him. "Send her in," Marcus said. Elena walked into the office, and Marcus was surprised by how different she looked. Instead of her gray cleaning uniform, she wore a simple blue dress and had her hair down. She looked younger and prettier than he remembered, but her eyes were still serious and careful. "Thank you for seeing me," Elena said politely. "Please, sit down," Marcus said, pointing to a chair across from his desk. Elena sat down and put her hands in her lap. She looked around the huge office with its expensive furniture and paintings. "This is where I used to clean," she said quietly. "I remember dusting that bookshelf every Tuesday night." Marcus felt embarrassed. He had never paid attention to when or how his office got cleaned. "Elena, I want to talk to you about our situation." "Yes," Elena said. "We need to discuss the details." Marcus had been thinking about this conversation for days. He had decided to offer Elena money to go away and let him forget this whole thing ever happened. But seeing her again, remembering how she had played that night, he found himself saying something different. "I know we don't know each other," Marcus began, "and I know this whole thing started as a mistake. But I want to try to make it work." Elena looked surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe we could have a real marriage eventually after we get to know each other." Elena was quiet for a long time. "Why?" she finally asked. Marcus wasn't sure how to answer. "I've been thinking about what you did at the party. Not just the piano playing, although that was incredible. But you had the courage to take a chance when everyone was laughing at you. I respect that, and," Elena said, sensing there was more. Marcus sighed. "And I'm tired of my life. I have everything money can buy, but I'm not happy. Maybe this is a chance for both of us to find something better." Elena studied his face. "What are you proposing?" "A marriage of convenience for 1 year," Marcus said. "We'll live in the same house but have separate rooms. We'll appear together at public events so people think it's real. At the end of the year, if we don't want to continue, we'll get a quiet divorce." "What do I get out of this arrangement?" Elena asked. Marcus had expected this question. $2 million. Plus your mother will have the best medical care available. "I'll pay for everything." Elena shook her head. "That's not enough." Marcus was surprised. He had never met anyone who thought $2 million wasn't enough for anything. "What do you want?" he asked. Elena sat up straighter. $5 million. But not for me. I want you to start a music scholarship fund in my father's name. Kids who can't afford music lessons should have a chance to learn." "That's a lot of money," Marcus said. "You spend more than that on your car collection," Elena replied. "And there's something else. I want to teach piano to children at the community center in my neighborhood. You'll provide the instruments and pay for the space." Marcus was quiet, thinking. Elena's requests weren't about getting rich. They were about helping other people. "Anything else?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Elena said firmly. "I want respect. I won't be treated like your property or your employee. If we're going to be married, even if it's just for show, you'll treat me like an equal partner." "Fair enough," Marcus said. "Do you have any questions about the arrangement?" Elena had many questions, but one was most important. "Why don't you want a real marriage? Why don't you have a girlfriend or wife already?" Marcus looked out the window. "I've been engaged twice. Both times the women were more interested in my money than in me. I decided it was easier to be alone." "And you think I'm different?" Elena asked. Marcus looked at her directly. "You could have asked for $10 million for yourself. Instead, you want to help kids learn music." "Yes, I think you're different." Elena nodded slowly. "Okay, I accept your terms, but I have some conditions of my own. Such as, I want to continue working while we're married. Not cleaning offices, I'll quit those jobs. But I want to teach music and maybe perform again. I need to feel useful. Of course, Marcus said, and I want to see my mother every day. She has dementia and she gets confused when I'm not around. We can arrange that, Marcus agreed. One more thing, Elena said. If either of us falls in love with someone else during this year, we tell the other person immediately. No lies, no cheating. Marcus found this condition interesting. Do you think that might happen? Elena shrugged. I don't know, but I believe in being honest. Marcus stood up and walked around his desk. He held out his hand to Elena. Do we have a deal? Elena stood up and shook his hand. Her grip was firm and confident. We have a deal. David the lawyer had been listening to everything. I'll draw up a contract with all these terms, he said. When do you want to have the wedding? Marcus and Elena looked at each other. Next week? Marcus suggested. That's very fast, Elena said. The media attention isn't going to go away, Marcus explained. The sooner we do this, the sooner we can get back to normal life. Elena laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I don't think either of our lives will ever be normal again. She was right, but neither of them knew just how much their lives were about to change. The wedding was planned for the following Saturday. It would be small, just immediate family and a few close friends. Marcus didn't have much family. His parents were divorced and he barely spoke to his sister. Elena's only family was her sick mother. As Elena got ready to leave the office, she turned back to Marcus. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever play piano yourself? Marcus looked embarrassed. No. I bought that piano because my decorator said every rich person should have one. I can't even read music. Elena smiled for the first time since she had walked into his office. Maybe I could teach you. If we're going to be married, even for just a year, we should have something to talk about. After Elena left, Marcus sat alone in his office thinking. He had just agreed to marry a woman he barely knew. It was the craziest thing he had ever done. But for the first time in years, he felt excited about something. Elena Rodriguez was not like anyone he had ever met. She was talented, intelligent, and brave. She had turned down his first offer and negotiated for what she really wanted. Most of the women in his world would have taken the $2 million and been happy. Elena wanted to use $5 million to help other people. Marcus looked at the newspapers on his desk again. In a few days, he would be married to the cleaning lady who played piano like an angel. His carefully controlled life was about to become very complicated. But as he watched the sun set over New York City, Marcus found himself looking forward to it. Down on the street below, Elena Rodriguez walked toward the subway station. She had just agreed to marry one of the richest men in America. In 1 week, her whole life would change forever. She thought about her mother who would finally get the medical care she needed. She thought about the children who would learn to play piano because of the scholarship fund. She thought about having a chance to perform music again. Elena knew this marriage was a business deal, not a love story. But maybe, just maybe, it could become something more. Only time would tell. 2 weeks after their wedding, Marcus woke up in his penthouse and realized something strange. For the first time in months, he had slept through the entire night without waking up to check his phone or worry about business deals. The wedding had been small and quiet, just like they planned. Elena had worn a simple white dress that she bought at a regular store, not a fancy wedding shop. Marcus's mother had flown in from Florida and spent the whole time asking Elena questions about her family and background. Elena answered everything politely, even when the questions were rude. Now Elena lived in the guest wing of Marcus's penthouse. She had her own bedroom, bathroom, and small sitting room. They saw each other at breakfast and dinner, but otherwise lived separate lives. Marcus got dressed and walked to the kitchen. Elena was already there making coffee and reading a book while she ate toast. Good morning, Marcus said. Good morning, Elena replied, not looking up from her book. Marcus poured himself coffee and sat down across from her. He was curious about what she was reading, but the book was in Spanish. What are you reading? He asked. Poetry by Federico Garcia Lorca, Elena said. He was a Spanish poet and playwright. Marcus had never heard of him. Is it good? Elena looked up from her book for the first time. He wrote about love, death, and the struggle of ordinary people. Yes, it's very good. Marcus realized he knew almost nothing about Elena's interests beyond piano playing. Do you read a lot? When I have time, Elena said. Working 3 jobs didn't leave much time for reading. but I always loved books. After Elena left to visit her mother, Marcus found himself walking to her room. He told himself he just wanted to make sure she had everything she needed. But really, he was curious about who she was when no one was watching. Elena's room was much smaller than his master bedroom, but she had made it feel warm and comfortable. There were pictures of her family on the dresser. A picture of a man who must have been her father, wearing a suit and smiling proudly. A picture of a younger Elena in a fancy dress sitting at a piano on what looked like a concert stage. But it was Elena's bookshelf that surprised Marcus the most. There were books about music theory, but also books about philosophy, history, and literature. Many were in Spanish, but others were in English, and even a few in French. These weren't simple books. They were the kind that smart people read to understand the world better. On her desk, Marcus found sheet music. Some of it looked very old and worn, like it had been played many times. There were also notebooks filled with Elena's handwriting, music she had written herself. Marcus picked up one of the notebooks and opened it carefully. The music looked incredibly complex. He couldn't read music, but he could tell this wasn't simple piano playing. This was the work of someone who understood music at a very deep level. Under the sheet music, Marcus found a stack of letters. He knew he shouldn't look, but curiosity got the better of him. The letters were from famous musicians and music schools. They were all praising Elena's talent and begging her to come study or perform with them. One letter was from the director of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. It was dated 3 years ago, right around the time Elena had quit music school. "Dear Miss Rodriguez," the letter said, "we have heard your performance of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, and we are deeply impressed. We would like to invite you to perform as a guest soloist with our orchestra next season. This is a rare honor for someone so young." Marcus stopped reading. Elena had been invited to perform with one of the most famous orchestras in the world, and she had turned it down. She had given up everything, fame, money, recognition, to take care of her family. Marcus put the letters back carefully and left Elena's room. He felt like he had discovered a hidden treasure. Elena wasn't just a talented piano player. She was probably one of the most gifted musicians of her generation, and no one knew it because she was too busy cleaning offices to pay for her mother's medicine. That evening, when Elena came home from visiting her mother, Marcus was waiting in the living room. "How is your mother doing?" he asked. Elena looked tired. "She had a bad day. Sometimes she doesn't remember who I am. But the new doctor you arranged for her to see thinks the new medicine might help." "That's good," Marcus said. Then, after a pause, "Elena, can I ask you something personal?" Elena sat down on the couch but left plenty of space between them. "What do you want to know? Why did you really give up music? I know you said it was because of money, but there must have been other options. Scholarships, loans, wealthy patrons who would have supported you?" Elena was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "There were options. People offered to help. But they all came with conditions." "What kind of conditions?" Elena looked directly at him. "The kind that young women face when older, powerful men offer to help their careers. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Marcus felt sick to his stomach. He understood exactly what Elena meant. Some men had offered to help her music career, but only if she agreed to things she wasn't willing to do. "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "I didn't realize." "It's not your fault," Elena said. "But it's why I decided to quit music school and find regular work. I couldn't afford to keep studying without help, and I wasn't willing to pay the price that help would have cost me." Marcus thought about all the talented young women who probably faced the same choice Elena had faced. It made him angry. "What about now?" Marcus asked. "Would you want to go back to music? I mean, really go back, not just teaching children." Elena's eyes lit up for a moment, then became sad again. "I'm 28 years old. That's old in the music world. Most successful musicians start their careers in their early 20s. I've lost too much time." "But you're still incredible," Marcus said. "I've never heard anyone play like you." "Thank you," Elena said. "But wanting something and being able to have it are two different things." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus asked another question. "Do you ever regret it? Giving up your dreams?" Elena thought carefully before answering. "I regret that I had to choose. I regret that my father died so young and my mother got sick. But I don't regret taking care of my family. Some things are more important than personal dreams." Marcus realized that Elena had more strength and character than anyone he had ever met. She had given up fame and fortune to do what was right, and she didn't even feel sorry for herself about it. "Can I see some of your music?" Marcus asked. "The songs you wrote yourself?" Elena looked surprised. "You wouldn't understand them. You said you can't read music. Maybe you could play one for me," Marcus suggested. Elena hesitated. "They're very personal. I wrote them during the hardest time in my life. I'd like to hear them if you're willing to share." Elena got up and walked to the piano. She sat down and put her hands on the keys but didn't start playing right away. "This song is called Letter to Papa," she said quietly. "I wrote it after my father died." Then Elena began to play. The music was different from the complicated classical piece she had played at the party. This was simpler but somehow more beautiful. It told the story of a daughter's love for her father, her grief when he died, and her promise to keep living the life he would have been proud of. Marcus found himself crying, something he hadn't done since he was a child. The music was so honest and full of love that it broke his heart. When Elena finished playing, she turned around and saw the tears on Marcus's face. "Are you okay?" she asked, concerned. "That was beautiful," Marcus said, wiping his eyes. "Thank you for sharing it with me." Elena looked at him differently than she had before. For the first time, she saw not the arrogant billionaire from the party, but a man who could be moved by music and beauty. "Would you like me to teach you to play piano?" Elena asked. "Just simple songs to start with," Marcus smiled. "I'd like that very much." And so began the piano lessons that would change both of their lives. Every evening after dinner, Elena would sit beside Marcus at the piano and show him where to put his fingers. She was patient with his mistakes and encouraging when he got frustrated. Marcus was surprised to find that he enjoyed learning something new. All his life, he had been good at everything immediately. Piano was hard, and he had to practice every day to improve even a little bit. But Elena made it fun. During their lessons, they talked about other things too. Elena told Marcus about her childhood, growing up in a small apartment with parents who worked hard but always made time for family. Marcus told Elena about his lonely childhood, with parents who were too busy making money to pay much attention to their son. "Is that why you work so much now?" Elena asked one evening as Marcus struggled through a simple song. "Maybe," Marcus admitted. "Work was the only thing that got my parents' attention when I was young. I guess I never learned to stop." "What would happen if you worked less?" Elena asked. Marcus thought about this. "I don't know. I've never tried." "Maybe you should try," Elena suggested. "There might be other things in life worth your time." As the weeks passed, Marcus found himself looking forward to their evening piano lessons more than any business meeting or social event. Elena was teaching him more than music. She was teaching him how to slow down, how to pay attention to beauty, and how to find joy in simple things. 3 months into their marriage, Marcus did something he had never done before in his adult life. He took a Saturday off from work. "Where are you going?" his assistant asked when Marcus left the office early on Friday afternoon. "I'm going to watch my wife teach piano to kids," Marcus said, surprising himself with how good those words felt to say. Every Saturday, Elena volunteered at the community center in her old neighborhood. She had been doing this for years, even when she was working 3 jobs. Now, with Marcus's money, they had bought new pianos and hired other music teachers. The program had grown from 5 children to 30. Marcus had never been to Elena's neighborhood before. It was very different from his world of expensive restaurants and luxury stores. The buildings were old and many of the streets needed repair. But the people seemed friendlier than the rich people Marcus usually spent time with. Children played on the sidewalks and neighbors talked to each other from their windows. The community center was in an old building, but inside it was warm and welcoming. Marcus could hear piano music coming from one of the rooms. He followed the sound and found Elena sitting with a little boy who couldn't have been more than 7 years old. "No, Miguel, remember what I told you," Elena was saying patiently. "Your hands should be curved like you're holding a small ball. Try again." The little boy tried again, concentrating very hard. When he played the simple song correctly, Elena clapped and smiled. "Perfect. You're getting so much better." Marcus watched from the doorway as Elena worked with child after child. Some were very young, just learning which keys made which sounds. Others were older and could play real songs. Elena gave each child her complete attention, encouraging them when they struggled and celebrating with them when they succeeded. What struck Marcus most was how happy Elena looked. Her whole face glowed when she was teaching music. This was what she was meant to do. "Mr. Sterling?" A woman's voice interrupted his thoughts. Marcus turned to see a middle-aged Hispanic woman approaching him. "Yes? I'm Maria Santos, the center director. You must be Elena's husband. Thank you so much for everything you've done for our program." "It was Elena's idea," Marcus said. "I just provided the money." "Money is important," Maria said, "but Elena provides something we can't buy. She gives these children hope. Some of them come from very difficult homes. Music gives them a way to express their feelings and dream about a better future." Marcus watched as a teenage girl played a beautiful piece on one of the new pianos. She was clearly very talented. "That's Sophia," Maria explained. "She's 15 and incredibly gifted. Elena has been working with her for 2 years. Is she good enough to go to music school?" Marcus asked. "Oh yes," Maria said, "but her family can't afford it. Her father works 2 jobs just to pay rent." Marcus made a mental note. Maybe the scholarship fund he had promised Elena could help Sophia. After the music lessons ended, Elena came over to where Marcus was standing. "You came," she said, sounding pleased but surprised. "I wanted to see what you do here," Marcus said. "You're amazing with these kids," Elena smiled. "They're amazing kids. They just need someone to believe in them." As they walked home together, Marcus found himself seeing the city differently. He noticed things he had never paid attention to before. Street musicians playing for tips, children drawing with chalk on sidewalks, elderly people sitting on benches feeding pigeons. "Do you ever miss it?" Elena asked as they passed a fancy restaurant that Marcus used to go to for business dinners. "Miss what?" "Your old life. Before you married me. You used to go out to expensive restaurants and parties every night. Now you spend your evenings learning piano and taking walks with your fake wife." Marcus thought about this. "You know what? I don't miss it at all. Those parties were boring. The same people talking about the same things. And the restaurants were just about showing off how much money you could spend on a meal. So what do you like better about your life now?" Elena asked. Marcus was quiet for a while, thinking. "I like learning things. I like feeling like I'm getting better at something, even if it's just playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the piano. And I like—" He paused, feeling embarrassed. "What?" Elena encouraged. "I like having someone to come home to. Someone who cares about what kind of day I had." Elena stopped walking and looked at him. "I do care about what kind of day you had." "I know," Marcus said. "That's what makes it nice." They started walking again, but now they were walking closer together. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Sure. Why did you say yes when I proposed?" "Really? I know you needed the money for your mother, but you could have just asked me to hire the best doctors for her. You didn't have to marry me." Elena was quiet for a long time. "I was tired," she finally said. "Tired of what?" "Tired of being invisible. Tired of cleaning up after people who didn't even see me as human. Tired of having dreams that I couldn't afford to chase." She looked at Marcus. "When you made that promise at the party and I played that song, for the first time in 3 years I felt like myself again. Like Elena the musician, not just Elena the cleaning lady." "And now?" Marcus asked. "Now I feel like both," Elena said. "I feel like Elena the teacher, Elena the daughter, Elena the person who might have a future again." They had reached Marcus's building. As they rode the elevator up to the penthouse, Marcus made a decision. "Elena, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." "Okay." "If money wasn't an issue, if your mother had all the medical care she needed, and you never had to worry about bills again, what would you want to do with your life?" Elena thought carefully. "I'd want to perform again. Not necessarily in big concert halls, but I'd want to play music for people who love it. And I'd want to teach, but at a higher level. Maybe work with young musicians who are really serious about their careers." "What if I told you that you could do all of that?" Elena looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we made this marriage real? Not just a business arrangement, but a real partnership. You could quit worrying about money forever. You could focus on music full-time. And I could—" Marcus paused. "You could what?" "I could learn to be a better person." "You make me want to be better, Elena. You make me care about things that matter." Elena stared at him. "Marcus, are you saying you want to stay married?" "Really married?" "I think I am," Marcus said. "But only if you want it too. I won't trap you in something you don't want." They had reached their floor. As they walked into the penthouse, Elena was very quiet. "I need time to think about this," Elena said finally. "Of course," Marcus said. "Take all the time you need." But that night, instead of going to their separate rooms like they usually did, they both ended up in the living room. Marcus was reading a business report and Elena was working on a new song she was composing. "Can I ask you to play something?" Marcus said. "What would you like to hear?" "Something happy. Something that makes you think about good things happening in the future." Elena smiled and walked to the piano. She played a piece by Mozart that was light and cheerful, full of hope and joy. As she played, Marcus put down his business report and just listened. He realized that Elena's music had become one of his favorite things in the world. He could listen to her play for hours and never get bored. When she finished, Elena turned around. "Marcus, can I ask you something now?" "Of course." "If we stay married, really married, what would you want our life to look like?" Marcus thought about this. "I'd want us to travel together. I'd want to take you to see great concert halls around the world. I'd want to support your music career in any way I could. And I'd want us to keep helping kids like the ones you teach." "And what about love?" Elena asked quietly. "This whole arrangement started as a business deal. What if we can never really love each other the way married people should?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Elena, I think I might already love you." Elena's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I look forward to seeing you every morning. I think about you when I'm at work. I care about your dreams and your happiness more than I care about my own business deals. If that's not love, it's pretty close." Elena felt her heart beating fast. She had been trying not to think about her own feelings, but hearing Marcus say those words made her realize something. "I think I might love you too," she whispered. Marcus stood up and walked over to the piano. "Really? You're not the same person you were at that party," Elena said. "You're kind and patient and you listen to me. You care about things that matter. And when you play piano, even though you're still learning, you put your whole heart into it." Marcus reached out and took Elena's hand. "So what do we do now?" Elena smiled. "Now we see what happens when two people who started as strangers decide to build a real life together." Marcus leaned down and kissed her gently. It was their first real kiss, and it felt like the beginning of something beautiful. From that night on, their marriage became real in every way that mattered. They were no longer just two people living in the same house. They were partners, friends, and two people falling deeply in love. But their happiness wouldn't last long without being tested. Soon, someone from Marcus's past would return and try to destroy everything they were building together. Elena was getting ready for her first public piano performance in 4 years. She stood in front of the mirror in her and Marcus's bedroom. They had been sharing a room for 2 months now, and tried to calm her nerves. The performance was at a small but prestigious venue in Manhattan. Marcus had arranged it through his connections, but Elena would be performing based purely on her own talent. No one was getting special treatment because she was married to a billionaire. "You look beautiful," Marcus said, adjusting his tie as he got ready to go with her. Elena wore a simple black dress that Marcus had bought for her. It wasn't the fanciest dress in the world, but it made her feel elegant and confident. "What if I've forgotten how to perform in front of people?" Elena asked. "What if my hands shake? What if I mess up?" Marcus walked over and took her hands in his. "Elena, you are the most talented musician I've ever heard. You're going to be amazing. But what if—" Marcus kissed her gently to stop her worried questions. "No what ifs. You've been practicing for weeks. You know these songs better than you know your own name. Trust yourself." Elena took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, let's go." The concert hall was small but elegant. About 200 people could fit inside, and tonight it was completely full. Marcus had invited some of his business friends, but most of the audience were people who truly loved classical music. Elena peeked through the curtain at the audience before her performance. She saw Marcus sitting in the front row, smiling encouragingly at her. Next to him was her mother, Maria Rodriguez, who was having a good day and remembered that her daughter was performing tonight. 5 minutes. "Miss Rodriguez," the stage manager said. Elena's hands were trembling a little, but she felt more excited than scared. This was what she was born to do. She walked onto the stage and sat at the beautiful grand piano. The audience got quiet, waiting for her to begin. Elena closed her eyes for a moment and thought about her father. She could almost feel him there with her, proud and supportive like he had always been. Then she began to play. She started with a piece by Chopin that was technically difficult, but emotionally beautiful. Her fingers moved across the keys with perfect precision, but more importantly, every note was filled with feeling. The audience was completely silent, hypnotized by her playing. Some people had tears in their eyes. Others leaned forward in their seats, not wanting to miss a single note. Elena played for 45 minutes, performing pieces by different composers. Each song told a different story, some sad, some joyful, some mysterious. But all of them were played with the skill and passion that had once made her famous in music schools across the country. For her final piece, Elena surprised everyone. Instead of playing a classical composition, she played one of her own songs. It was the piece she had written about her father, Letter to Papa, but she had arranged it to be even more beautiful and complex. As the last notes faded away, the audience sat in complete silence for several seconds. Then they exploded into applause. People stood up and cheered. Some were crying openly. Elena stood and bowed, feeling happier than she had in years. She looked out at Marcus, who was clapping so hard his hands probably hurt. His face was shining with pride and love. After the performance, people crowded around Elena backstage. Music critics, other musicians, and wealthy patrons all wanted to meet her and tell her how incredible her playing was. "Miss Rodriguez," said a distinguished older man, "I'm James Whitfield from the New York Times. We'd love to do an interview with you about your return to performing. We must talk about having you perform with our orchestra," said a woman from the Metropolitan Opera. Elena was overwhelmed but happy. These were the kinds of opportunities she had dreamed about when she was young. Marcus stayed close to her, helping her navigate all the attention. He was so proud of his wife that he felt like he might burst. But across the room, someone was watching Elena with very different feelings. Victoria Hamilton had arrived late and stood in the back, her face twisted with anger and jealousy. Victoria was Marcus's ex-fiancée, the woman he had been engaged to 2 years earlier. She was beautiful, wealthy, and used to getting everything she wanted. When Marcus had broken up with her, she had been furious. She had spent the last year traveling in Europe, waiting for him to realize his mistake and come back to her. Instead, she had returned to New York to find him married to a former cleaning lady. Victoria waited until the crowd around Elena began to thin out. Then she made her move. Well, Victoria said, approaching Marcus and Elena. "If it isn't the happy couple." Marcus's face went hard when he saw her. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" "I heard about your wife's little performance," Victoria said with fake sweetness. "I had to come see the famous piano-playing cleaning lady for myself." Elena felt Marcus tense up beside her. She could tell this woman was trouble. "Victoria, this isn't the time or place," Marcus said quietly. "Oh, but I think it is," Victoria said loud enough for other people to hear. "I think everyone should know the truth about your fairy tale marriage." People around them started to notice the tension and listen to their conversation. "What are you talking about?" Elena asked, though she had a feeling she didn't want to know the answer. Victoria smiled cruelly. "I'm talking about the fact that your marriage has an expiration date. I'm talking about the contract you both signed saying you'd divorce after 1 year. Elena felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. She looked at Marcus, whose face had gone pale. "That's not—" Marcus started to say. "Not what?" Victoria interrupted. "Not true? I have friends who work at your lawyer's office, Marcus. I know all about your little business arrangement. $2 million for 1 year of fake marriage. Very romantic." More people were listening now. Elena could hear whispers starting around the room. "Although I hear the price went up," Victoria continued. $5 million for a scholarship fund? That's quite expensive for a fake wife." Elena felt humiliated. All these people who had just heard her beautiful music, who had treated her like a real artist, now knew that she was just a woman who had been paid to marry a rich man. "Elena," Marcus said desperately, "let me explain." But Elena was too hurt and embarrassed to listen. She pushed through the crowd and ran toward the exit. Marcus started to follow her, but Victoria grabbed his arm. "Let her go, Marcus," Victoria said. "She's not right for you. She's not one of us. Come back to me and we can forget this whole ridiculous episode ever happened." Marcus looked at Victoria with disgust. "You just destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. Get out of my sight." He pushed past Victoria and ran after Elena, but she was already gone. Elena ran through the streets of Manhattan, not caring that she was still wearing her concert dress and high heels. Tears streamed down her face as she thought about how stupid she had been. Of course, Marcus didn't really love her. Of course, this had all been too good to be true. She was a former cleaning lady, and he was one of the richest men in America. What had made her think they could ever really belong together? Elena made it back to the penthouse, but instead of going upstairs, she went to the guest room where she had lived when they first got married. She packed her few belongings into a suitcase, including her precious sheet music and her father's pictures. By the time Marcus got home, Elena was ready to leave. "Elena, please," Marcus said when he saw her suitcase. "Don't go. Let me explain everything." "What is there to explain?" Elena said, her voice cold. Victoria was right. We had a contract. A business deal. I was stupid to think it had become something real. But it did become something real, Marcus said desperately. "I love you, Elena, really love you. The contract doesn't matter anymore." "It matters to me," Elena said. "It matters that you paid me to marry you. It matters that everyone now knows I'm just another woman who married a rich man for his money." "You're not just anything," Marcus said. "You're the most amazing person I've ever known. You're talented and kind and brave. You make me want to be better than I am." Elena's resolve wavered for a moment when she saw the pain in Marcus's eyes, but then she remembered the whispers she had heard as she left the concert hall, the looks of pity and judgment. "I can't do this anymore," Elena said. "I won't be your charity case or your temporary wife or whatever this was supposed to be. Elena, please." "I'm going back to my real life," Elena said. "Thank you for helping with my mother's medical care. I'll make sure you get back every penny of the money you spent on the scholarship fund." "I don't want the money back," Marcus said. "I want you." But Elena was already walking toward the door. "Elena," Marcus called after her. "Don't let Victoria win. Don't let her destroy what we built together." Elena stopped at the door and turned back one last time. "She didn't destroy anything, Marcus. There was nothing real to destroy. We were just pretending, and now the pretending is over." And with that, Elena walked out of Marcus's life, leaving him alone in the penthouse that suddenly felt empty and meaningless without her. The newspapers had a field day with the story. Billionaire's marriage. Revealed as business deal. Cinderella story ends in divorce. Love for hire, the Marcus Sterling scandal. Elena went back to her small apartment and back to working multiple jobs to pay the bills. 6 months after Elena left, Marcus sat in his office staring out at the New York skyline. He had everything he'd had before he met Elena. Money, power, success. But none of it meant anything to him anymore. His assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Sterling, you have a meeting with the board of directors in 10 minutes. Cancel it," Marcus said without turning around. "Sir, this is the 3rd meeting you've canceled this week. The board members are getting concerned about—" "I said cancel it," Marcus repeated, his voice tired. After his assistant left, Marcus picked up a newspaper from his desk. There was a small article on the entertainment page that he had read dozens of times already. Local pianist to perform benefit concert. The article was about Elena. She was going to perform at a charity concert to raise money for music education in public schools. The concert was tonight, and it would be her first major performance since the night Victoria had humiliated her. Marcus had bought a ticket, but he wasn't sure if he should go. What if Elena didn't want to see him? What if his presence ruined her performance? But as the day went on, Marcus realized he couldn't stay away. He needed to hear Elena play again, even if she never spoke to him afterward. The concert was at Lincoln Center in one of the most prestigious concert halls in the world. Marcus arrived early and took a seat in the back, hoping Elena wouldn't notice him in the crowd. As people filled the seats around him, Marcus overheard conversations about Elena. Word had spread through New York's music community about her incredible talent. Critics and musicians were calling her one of the most gifted pianists of her generation. "I heard she gave up music for several years to take care of her sick mother," an elderly woman was saying to her friend. "How sad," her friend replied, "but what a loving daughter." "And then that awful business with Marcus Sterling," the first woman continued. "Using her like that, pretending to love her when it was all just a publicity stunt." Marcus felt sick hearing himself described as the villain in Elena's story. But he knew that many people saw it that way. Rich man tricks poor woman into fake marriage for entertainment. The truth was much more complicated, but most people preferred the simple version. The lights dimmed and Elena walked onto the stage. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. She looked more beautiful than ever, wearing a deep blue dress that made her dark hair shine under the stage lights. But more than her beauty, it was Elena's presence that amazed Marcus. She walked with confidence and grace like she belonged on that stage. This wasn't the tired cleaning lady he had first met, or even the uncertain woman who had been nervous about performing 6 months ago. This was Elena Rodriguez, the artist in her natural element. Elena sat at the piano and began to play. She had chosen a program of pieces that told the story of her life, her childhood, her father's death, her years of struggle, and her hopes for the future. Each piece was played with such emotion and skill that the audience was completely captivated. As Marcus listened, he realized something that made his chest tight with regret. Elena was playing better than ever. The pain of their separation, the struggle of going back to her old life, the determination to prove herself on her own terms, all of it had made her music even more powerful and beautiful. For her final piece, Elena surprised everyone. She announced that she would be playing a new composition she had written herself. The piece was called Finding Home. As Elena began to play, Marcus felt tears come to his eyes. The music was clearly about their relationship, their strange beginning, the way they had slowly learned to trust each other, the happiness they had found together, and the sadness of losing it all. But the ending of the song was different from what Marcus expected. Instead of ending in sadness, the music became hopeful, as if Elena was saying that even though their love story had ended, it had taught her something valuable about herself and about what was possible in life. When Elena finished playing, the audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. People were cheering, crying, and calling for her to play more. Elena stood and bowed, her face glowing with happiness and accomplishment. As she looked out at the audience, her eyes found Marcus in the back row. For a moment, their eyes met across the crowded concert hall. Marcus saw surprise, then pain, then something else, maybe forgiveness, flash across Elena's face. But then she looked away and Marcus wasn't sure what he had seen. After the concert, Marcus waited outside the stage door. He knew Elena would have to come out this way, and he needed to speak to her, even if it was just to congratulate her on her beautiful performance. Elena emerged about 30 minutes later, surrounded by music critics, other musicians, and admirers. She was laughing at something someone had said, and Marcus was struck by how genuinely happy she looked. "Elena," Marcus called out as she walked toward the street. Elena stopped and turned around. When she saw Marcus, her smile faded, but she didn't look angry. She looked tired and sad. "Hello, Marcus," she said quietly. The people around Elena sensed the tension and gradually drifted away, giving them privacy. "You were incredible tonight," Marcus said. "That last piece, it was beautiful." "Thank you," Elena replied. "What are you doing here?" "I had to hear you play again," Marcus said honestly. "I've missed your music. I've missed everything about you." Elena looked down at her hands. "Marcus, we've been through this. What happened between us is over, is it?" Marcus asked. "Because that song you played tonight, it didn't sound like it was over. It sounded like you still care about what we had." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "What I felt for you was real, Marcus. But that doesn't change the fact that our whole relationship was built on a lie." "Not a lie," Marcus said desperately. "A misunderstanding. Yes, we started with a contract, but what we became was real." "You have to know that, do I?" Elena asked. "How can I be sure of anything when you paid me to marry you?" Marcus took a deep breath. He had been thinking about this conversation for months, rehearsing what he would say if he ever got the chance. "Elena, I want to ask you to marry me again. But this time I want to do it right." Elena stared at him in shock. "What?" Marcus got down on one knee, right there on the sidewalk outside Lincoln Center. People walking by stopped to stare, but Marcus didn't care. "Elena Rodriguez," Marcus said, his voice strong and clear. "I love you, not because of a contract or a promise I made at a party, but because you are the most amazing person I have ever known. You are talented, kind, brave, and beautiful. You make me want to be a better man every single day." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. Marcus continued. "I know I hurt you. I know I let Victoria make you feel like what we had wasn't real. But it was real, Elena. It was the most real thing in my life. Will you marry me? Really marry me this time with no contracts, no time limits, just love? Elena looked down at Marcus, seeing the pain and hope in his eyes. She thought about the past 6 months, how empty her life had felt without him, how many times she had wanted to call him, how she had written "Finding Home" because she couldn't stop thinking about what they had lost. "Stand up," Elena said softly. Marcus stood up, his heart pounding. "Marcus, when we were together, did you ever love me? Really love me? Not just care about me or feel grateful to me, but actually love me?" "Yes," Marcus said without hesitation. "I loved you from the moment you told me you wanted to use the money to help other people, instead of keeping it for yourself. I loved you when you taught piano to those kids at the community center. I loved you when you played your father's song for me. I loved you every morning when I woke up and remembered that you were in my life." Elena felt her resolve weakening. But what about the contract? What about the fact that everyone knows we got married because of a stupid bet? "I don't care what anyone else thinks," Marcus said. "I only care about what you think. Do you love me, Elena? Even a little bit?" Elena closed her eyes and thought about their time together. The piano lessons, the walks through the city, the way Marcus had supported her dreams, the way he had changed from an arrogant billionaire into a man who cared about things that really mattered. "Yes," she whispered. "I love you too." Marcus felt like his heart might explode with happiness. "Then marry me. Marry me for real this time." Elena opened her eyes and looked at him. "If we do this, it has to be different. No contracts, no business arrangements, just two people who love each other and want to build a life together." "Yes," Marcus agreed immediately. "Anything you want. And I want to keep performing. I want to have my own career, not just be Marcus Sterling's wife." "Of course," Marcus said. "I want to support your career, not control it. And we help people," Elena said. "We use your money to make a difference in the world, especially for young musicians who need opportunities." "We'll help anyone you want to help," Marcus promised. Elena smiled through her tears. "Then yes, Marcus Sterling. I'll marry you. For real this time." Marcus kissed her right there on the sidewalk, and the people who had been watching broke into applause. Their second wedding was very different from their first. It was held in the same community center where Elena taught piano, and all the children from her music program performed at the ceremony. Elena's mother, who was having more good days thanks to her improved medical care, walked her down the aisle. Marcus's sister came to the wedding, and they used the occasion to repair their relationship. Even some of Marcus's business partners attended, and many of them were surprised to see a different side of him, relaxed, happy, and clearly devoted to his wife. Elena wore a simple white dress that she had chosen herself, not because it was expensive, but because she felt beautiful in it. Marcus wore a regular black suit, not the designer tuxedo his image consultant had recommended. When it came time to exchange vows, Elena and Marcus had written their own. "Marcus," Elena said, "when I first met you, I thought you were everything I disliked about wealthy, powerful people. But you showed me that success doesn't have to make someone shallow or selfish. You taught me that it's possible to have money and power and still be kind, generous, and humble. You supported my dreams and helped me remember who I was meant to be. I promise to love you, challenge you, and stand by you for the rest of our lives." "Elena," Marcus said, "you saved my life in ways you don't even realize. Before I met you, I was successful but empty. I had everything money could buy, but nothing that really mattered. You taught me about beauty, about art, about caring for other people. You showed me what real strength looks like when you gave up your dreams to take care of your family. I promise to love you, support your dreams, and try every day to be worthy of your love." As they kissed to seal their new marriage, Elena's young piano students played Wedding March on the small upright pianos that Marcus had donated to the center. After the wedding, Marcus and Elena went on a real honeymoon, not a business arrangement, but a celebration of their love. They traveled to Vienna, Austria, where Elena performed at some of the world's most famous concert halls. Marcus sat in the audience every night, beaming with pride as his wife shared her incredible gift with the world. They also visited small towns and villages, where Elena played for children who had never heard live classical music before. These performances meant just as much to Elena as the prestigious concerts, because they were about sharing the joy of music with people who needed it. When they returned to New York, Elena and Marcus created the Rodriguez Sterling Foundation, which provided music education and instruments to children from low-income families. Elena spent half her time performing and recording music, and half her time running the foundation. Marcus learned to balance his business responsibilities with his personal life. He still ran his company successfully, but he also made time for piano lessons with Elena, walks through the city, and quiet evenings at home listening to music. 5 years after their real wedding, Elena gave birth to their first child, a daughter they named Carmen after Elena's father. Carmen inherited her mother's musical gifts and her father's determination. Sometimes, when Elena was playing piano in the evenings with little Carmen on her lap, Marcus would think back to that night at the party when he had made his arrogant promise. He had meant it as a joke, but it had led him to the greatest love of his life. Elena would sometimes think about the scared cleaning lady she had been, afraid to dream of anything better. That woman never could have imagined that she would become a famous pianist, a loving wife, a devoted mother, and a person who helped hundreds of other children achieve their dreams. Their love story had begun with mockery and a foolish bet, but it had grown into something beautiful and real. Marcus and Elena had learned that true love isn't about money or status or proving something to other people. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be your best self, and choosing to build a life together based on trust, respect, and shared dreams. And whenever young couples asked them for advice about love and marriage, Marcus and Elena would always tell them the same thing. Start with honesty, add patience and kindness, and remember that the best relationships are partnerships where both people help each other become who they were meant to be. The piano that had brought them together still sat in their penthouse, but now it was played every day by Elena, by Marcus, who had become quite good over the years, and eventually by Carmen and her younger brother Diego. The music that filled their home was a symbol of the love, joy, and dreams that had transformed both of their lives forever. Their story proved that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings, and that true love really can conquer all obstacles when two people are willing to fight for it together.